Welcome to Emotional Support Water Bottle on location with Hannah and Ailish.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Ailish. We just finished watching
It ends with us.
and we're here as promised to give our takes and maybe talk about a couple other little things.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So as you may remember, Hannah read the book, but I did not. And I went in totally raw. I really didn't know anything besides the drama that we've heard a little bit outside of the movie. So, Hannah, what was your reaction as somebody who read the book?
I actually enjoyed it more than the book.
Really?
I did, and I honestly thought it was so good. And I think they handled the domestic violence parts well, in my opinion. And I really liked it, and I think they did a good job with pacing too.
Yeah, because you were worried about that.
Yeah, because there is so much like backstory to Lily's character and like Atlas and everything. So I think they did a really good job too with the pacing and everything and getting in all those details. I mean, there's like a couple things, but I don't think it damaged or like affected anything.
The story as a whole. Yeah. Like were there any major things from the book that weren't in the movie?
There was
I mean,
from
if
what I
you
can
didn't
remember.
watch the movie
Yeah.
or read the book, too bad at this
I
point.
know, right? There was like they did like allude to the Ellen thing, but basically she was always writing these letters to Ellen to like kind of like cope with what was like happening in her house and
Oh,
stuff.
interesting.
So
Okay.
they like, but I don't think that took away. And then there's like she loved the like Finding Nemo and Dory.
Yeah, I
and like
wondered
the
why
just
that
keep I know, and like the just keep swimming thing was kind of like a her and Atlas inside joke, so that wasn't really in there. But again, they like had that in there, and I don't think it took away.
Yeah.
But I think other than that, I really think it did. But and there's this thing like they talk about in the movie how she moved to Boston basically because of Atlas. But there's a whole thing about there's a magnet, a Boston magnet that Ryle finds, and that leads into a whole thing too. Like that's even more to
Gotcha.
but other than that, from what I remember, I feel like they hit pretty much everything for the most part.
Yeah, I am glad to hear that. I mean, there's
Yeah,
always details that aren't
right.
going to be in, but if the story as a whole didn't really
I know.
change.
And that's just from what I remember.
Yeah,
But
because
what
you
did
read it
you
a while ago.
Yeah, what did you think of it?
I liked it. I mean, like I said, went in completely raw. Like I thought that because I didn't really know people's names. I thought that the Justin Baldoni
Baldoni
was I thought he was gonna be the abuser, but I
Mhm.
like wasn't even fully sure of
Right.
that. So like I really didn't know who she was going to be with, and then when they
Mhm.
got married, like I was totally shocked. And yeah, like but I really enjoyed it. Like I thought it was gonna be kind of like a just fully cheesy
I
romantic
know.
thing, and it wasn't at all.
No, I mean, and like I told you too when we were talking about it earlier, was the parts that were just the few parts that were like cheesy lines was from the book.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I really feel like it wasn't at all. Like it really was a good movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be categorized as a chick flick, but
Right.
I think it was I mean, I think anybody could go see it. Like it
I
was
know.
like why wouldn't a guy enjoy watching Blake Lively for 2 hours?
Yes, did we?
I mean, yeah, like
I know, right? I also like that as far as I know, there's not a ton of movies that deal with domestic violence. And I thought that this one did a pretty good job of like
Yeah, well, because we said too, the movies that do talk about it feel very much like, oh, like she's down and out, he's a
Right.
piece of crap.
Right.
But like that isn't always how those
I know.
situations
They
come
can be
about.
right. It's like they can be that good looking,
That really
polished,
polished, perfect
yeah, neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
It's like that can also be an abuser.
And I think that a lot of times we just like, the thing that people say like, well, why didn't she leave, whatever. But like there are some abusers that totally wrap you up,
Yeah.
and they do make you feel like you're so loved, and even from people from the outside, like because
Mhm.
Ryle was like good looking, successful on paper, all this stuff.
Mhm.
He ticked all the boxes. People from the outside would be like, oh my God, like you have it so perfect. It's
Right.
not like it was a guy who just was, kind of a
Yeah,
loser.
drug addict or
Yeah,
like
like it really, and I liked that they highlighted that and
I know.
I thought that Blake Lively portrayed it really well too, of somebody who was so conflicted and confused.
Right.
Like, how did I get
I
here?
know, and like he's sorry
Yeah.
and
And she's scared, like
yeah.
scared, confused, but in love. Like it's
Yes.
really, I thought, and like we said earlier too, like I thought that was the best performance I've ever seen from Blake
Yeah, I
Lively.
thought she did a really good job, and even in those really tough scenes, because there's like a
A couple that are really, yeah,
particularly then
really.
that's really
Hmm.
troubling, and I thought she did a really good job too, and I thought they did a good job together.
Yeah, I did too. I was a little surprised. I know that like they had kind of talked about the domestic violence around the movie, but I was a little surprised that there wasn't more of a warning.
Yeah, it really because those scenes were really hard,
Yeah.
and if you didn't know
Yeah, I mean,
that
I didn't know. I mean, if I had a situation like that in my life, I think you probably would have told me like,
right,
"Hey, like this might be really."
really
Yeah,
triggering,
but
I
I mean,
wouldn't take you.
yeah, like I didn't know. I mean, the one scene he had her like pinned down and like it was really
It was.
scary.
It was.
And it took me by
I know,
surprise.
and, like, for me, knowing that how
Mhm.
that was gonna go, but for I mean, if you were watching that, you might have thought she was gonna get really
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
injured
I really
or,
did.
like
I thought he was gonna
like right.
sexually assault
Right.
her. Yeah. I was scared. And that was where I was like, wow, Blake Lively really, like, I've never seen that side of her acting before.
I know, and, like, the way she, like, she tried to calm him down, and
Mhm.
then it was, like
Which
it
is
was
what you would
intense.
do. That's so
Yes.
what you would do.
I know.
Yeah. But the other parts of it, like you've mentioned, like kind of the cheesier parts,
Right.
I think too, like when you, it sounds kind of weird, but sometimes when you read those things, it doesn't seem as
I know.
cheesy
I
because
I know that definitely happens when you're telling somebody about a book and you're, like, starting to, like, cower down. You're like,
you
it's
become
not as
too
stupid as it
aware.
sounds."
Yeah. But when you're like, you build up this kind of like, I don't know, character and world in your head, and
Mhm.
it's just like, oh, that's just how they talk. That's the way
Right.
it is. This is a story, and it's a fantasy, and it's so beautiful. But then to see them actually
I
depicted, and
know.
like that when they're wearing the onesies, or
Right.
just some of the lines, you're like, oh,
Yeah, like,
okay,
even the rooftop scene, like,
yeah,
that was a bit but also it's when you do first meet somebody, you are trying to be, like, cool,
for
and you are
sure,
gonna come off
yeah,
as cringy, but I mean, so it was still those parts were still good,
yeah.
but anything that came off like that, but, it was definitely an emotional movie.
It was emotional. I mean, I'm not a big crier. I don't know if you, because you said the birth made you emotional.
Yeah, and anything with the young kid every time
Yeah.
Atlas came on, it was like,
It was, I mean, and
welling up.
yeah, and it, because like were saying, and I think we've said it before too, just that like teenage
I
nostalgia
know,
really
and
gets you.
those 2 actors did
The younger one.
such a good
Yeah.
job at portraying young love like that.
I know they really did. And especially, I mean, that was a little cheesy too, right? Like
It was.
he's homeless, he has abuse in his household, and then we find out that Lily's dad abuses the mom, and it's like, okay, but
Right.
I mean, like that does happen. Like
Mhm.
it's not like those people don't exist.
Right.
Like they do,
Right.
but it's not always often that they're both good looking and both have hearts of gold and
I
end
know.
up falling in love forever.
I know when I first was, like, listening to the book or whatever, and she said the part about the homeless man,
You're like,
I was like, "What is this book? And then when you find out he's actually a teen too,
Yeah.
it's like,
He
okay.
actually is just, like,
Woo!
displaced
Yeah.
right now. He was kicked out. Like,
I know.
maybe reword that.
But
But,
anyway,
yeah, and I love just thinking of, the character of Atlas. Like, he was so protective
I
over,
know.
like,
He cared so
Lily.
much
I know
about
he
her.
really did, and it was really beautiful, and that's where you're just like, "Oh, God, I
That
want
was the
somebody who's
romance.
ruggedly handsome and cooks
Protective.
and
Yeah.
is
And it's
protective
just
and"
like taking care of her and is like never forgotten about each other. Oh, that was one of the things that when we talked about the casting
Mhm.
and them doing it, I know we talked about this at lunch
We
or whatever.
had lunch.
We had
We had
brunch
to let
together
it marinate a little bit
before we did
before we
it.
could talk about it on the pod.
But one of the things I was saying was because they made the characters older, it was even, 13 plus
Years
years that they
later.
would have seen each other.
Mhm.
Where in the book we had like the younger ages, like the early 20s, and that makes it with the age a little bit harder to believe. Not that, and
Mhm.
like you said too, it's like that could totally happen still, 15, 13 years later, meeting up with that old love and it like being super. But I think in the book, that makes a little bit more sense if you're
Yeah.
like 23 and re-meeting this person after a
Like
couple of years.
that part makes sense, but I think him being as
Yeah, it
protective as he
makes
was makes
more
more sense with him
sense. Older,
older. Yeah.
yes.
I did think it was interesting, and I think that when we originally talked about the casting stuff,
Mhm.
like I don't remember if Colleen Hoover said it then or if it was just something that we talked about, that she said that the ages were a
Yeah, she did
mistake.
say
Yeah.
that, and I think
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, I guess a neurosurgeon couldn't be, like, 25 or 20." I don't remember how old he was supposed to be, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Right." I don't know, it is like,
Yeah.
but I do think the older casting for this did make more sense
Yeah.
for the whole story in entirety, but then some of it kinda didn't too because it's what has Lily been doing this whole time, and now she's
That's
finally
true.
doing
Yeah. Like,
but
I
it
mean,
is what it
whatever. I
is,
mean,
I know.
and like she is from
Right, so
privilege.
she could have been just, like, doing whatever.
And I didn't, so just because you brought that up, at when Lily comes home for the funeral,
Mhm.
mom said something like, you're crazy to leave that job or
Mhm.
something. What did she have? Like, what was
Now that
that?
now that you just brought that up, she did have a job, but I cannot remember what it
It wasn't
was.
like a big
No, I
thing.
don't think it was, but again, I might not be
So
misremembering, but there
basically,
was, like, a thing.
she did have something,
Yes.
but then
Now that I
she's like,
remember that.
"No,
Yeah.
this is my passion. I want to do
Mhm.
this." Okay, okay. So,
So it's there in the book that you would maybe have to know, but they kind of explained it away, so it is
mhm,
kinda like
mhm.
I do think they did a good job at that.
Yeah, I thought that the story all like as a movie,
Yeah,
everything
because
made sense.
sometimes
I understood.
right, book ones, you're like, "Okay, if I didn't read this book, I would
Yeah,
no
I'm
idea what's
gonna
going on."
miss
But I
something.
definitely don't think you have to read the book. And the girl we were talking about too, the teenage Lily,
Mhm.
Isabella
I don't even know.
Ferrer? Sorry.
Sorry to
She did
you.
such a good job
She did.
at being Blake
Yes.
Lively,
I
like the
mean, like
mannerisms.
you said when we were watching the movie, she must have watched Gossip
Gossip
Girl. I
Girl
mean, literally, because she
studied it.
not only did she look so much like
Yeah.
Blake, but the way she talked. I mean, when she had her
Yes.
first line, I legitimately
That
thought they
was
just
her
dubbed
voice. I
Blake's
know.
voice over it. And I'm like, wow, that would have been a lot of work,
I
but maybe,
know.
but no. And even, how Blake always does that like lip thing where she
Mhm.
bites her lower lip. She
Or,
did
like, puts
that.
her hands on her
Yes.
teeth.
I mean, everything was she embodied Blake
Perfect. I
Lively
know.
so well that it was so seamless.
It was. Like, that's almost some of the best
I
I've
know.
seen
Because
from a
sometimes,
younger person.
yeah. And sometimes that takes me out of it a
It
little
does.
bit.
It's, like, because I know that isn't the same
Hmm.
person, younger, but they don't look if they don't look enough alike it can
It
really it's like, I
totally,
know it's a different actor, but I can still believe it. Like, this one, it's like,
yeah.
was it a
I know,
different
like
girl?
for me, which I never watched the Carrie Diaries, but when they
Mhm.
cast Anna Sophia Robb for young Carrie. And I know it's a little bit different because it's not like it was flashbacks and
Right.
stuff, but I could not
Yeah, it's like I
get
know
with
it's not
that.
her.
Yeah, I was so like, that doesn't look like Sarah Jessica
I
Parker
know, and
at
if
all.
their mannerisms aren't super
Yeah.
close, that's gonna take me out of it
Yeah,
too.
totally. So they did an unbelievable job. I didn't think that they did as good of a job with Atlas.
No, I think they could have found somebody
A
a little
little,
closer,
yeah.
but the guy did good.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with his
Right,
acting. It was just, I didn't think looks wise
right,
it
I
was
was
as,
right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I liked also too that and I don't know if it was fully like this in the book with the flashbacks or if it was more like this was her childhood relationship and then it moved in, but I liked how the way they sprinkled it in there, it made sense with what was happening in like the present day.
Yeah, I know they did do that in the book, like, it'd go back and forth,
Okay.
but mostly as she's an adult, kinda like the same thing it did
Okay.
in the movie, but I don't remember how seamlessly it was
Yeah.
because the movie did do it
It was
so
I
perfectly.
know.
Like, here we it was that was good too.
It was good. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
I did too because I like I had
You
said
were
before, I know
nervous.
I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna do with this, and I think one of the things I had a problem with in the book was they kept trying to, like, give sympathy to Ryle, in my
Yes.
opinion,
Yeah.
and I think they did it a little bit in this book, but I
Mhm.
think or in the movie, but they took a lot of that out,
Yeah.
and I think, like, to a point you can give, I mean, some sympathy to his backstory and
Sure.
everything, but and then at the towards the end where you're, like, in the hospital, it's like,
Mhm.
"Well, yeah, I would tell her I wouldn't," and then that kinda, like, you're supposed to believe at the end that that maybe changes him.
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic in that
Me
way.
either. I know. Yeah,
So that
just
was but that again is a book.
I
That's what
know.
books.
Yeah, a book, unless you're having it be like a full-on trilogy or
Right,
whatever about that one
right,
relationship or whatever, you're gonna wrap it up and move on. Even like I mean, you were telling me about It Starts With Us. It Ends With Us was wrapped up. Like that
right.
part of the life is now done and
Now
now
we're
she's
going
kind of moving.
forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Which again, too, with the title, like
I
I did
know,
not
it is.
understand. And again, I haven't read any of the books, so I thought that It Starts With Us was going to be like a
Mhm.
prequel, but it wasn't. It was like
Yeah,
we're ending the cycle of the domestic
right.
violence with her daughter now, and then it's going to be a new chapter moving forward. And I
Yes.
like that
I know,
premise.
it
Yeah.
is a cool premise because you wouldn't know until
No,
the
I mean,
end,
until
that's
she
where it's
says
going.
it.
Because you
Yeah.
almost think it's gonna be, like, this tragic, like, it ends with us, like, we're
Yes, I know,
goners.
I know. I to talk about kind of the ending there with like Ryle in the hospital. That was the part too. I was so furious. Like
Right.
I first of all, right before that was when I got so emotional was when Blake is having the conversation with Alyssa, the
Yeah,
sister.
I know that
And
was
I when she was
sorry,
did you lock us
Alexa.
in or
Oops.
um but they're having this really heartfelt conversation and Alyssa's like, as his sister, I want you to find a way to
Right.
forgive him, but as my friend,
I know.
like what did she say? Like, I'll never forgive you if
Yeah,
you
if you
go
get bad
back
with
or whatever.
them.
I mean, that I was like fighting for my life
I
to not cry in the
know.
theater
And
because
that was such a beautiful
it
scene. I know,
was.
that got me too. I was like,
Because at
"Mm."
first I'm like, you have got to be
I know,
kidding
like,
me.
you
Is
can't
she
do
gonna
this.
like, and then because she told, which at first, the very first scene when he says, I'm a neurosurgeon, and oh, what happened today? Oh, the horrible thing was that, the thing with the gun
Right.
and the two kids. I, and then they said that the brother died. I knew from the very beginning that he had some connection with that.
Mhm.
I didn't know it was the brother until obviously they said we had a brother. And then I'm
Right.
like, okay, now it
We're
all
getting the
makes sense. Yeah.
backstory.
So that is obviously
Yeah,
horrible
like,
and like,
huge trauma.
yeah, huge trauma. He definitely should have been in therapy for that one for like intensively. And obviously, he never fully worked through that
Right.
and shows aggression. And I think he's probably just mad at the world.
Everything, yeah,
Yeah.
himself and all
Yeah.
things.
But when the sister was saying that, I was getting really kind of mad until she wrapped it up
Up
like,
with
absolutely not, like,
right,
don't. And like we said about the sister too, like, I know in that moment she's like, I never would have in a million years thought that he
you
would do
right,
that, but like she did know that he was a playboy, and I know that
right,
she can't stop
right,
her from being with somebody, but like, I don't know, if I had a brother
that I knew
and there
was
was that kind of
crap.
trauma, yeah,
Yeah,
and then you wanted to be with him, but like you didn't know all that, like we weren't friends
right.
for decades, whatever. I'd probably be like, hey, like,
I
I
really
just need you to know this.
I know, and I think especially with the characters being older.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like,
Mhm.
I if
And
that happened to
again,
us
yeah,
right now, I mean, I would definitely be like, "Hey,
like, I'm standing here, you're not calling him, you're not texting him.
yeah," or like, "I can't fully stop you from doing this, but I
Right,
want you to know this
all this stuff,
information."
right,
Yeah. So, but then she wrapped it up and said,
right.
"As your best friend, absolutely not." And that I was like, "That is so beautiful." And that's like
It was a good
the
scene.
kind of like female empowerment we
I
need, and
know
just
it
like
is.
how strong their friendship was, which was kind
Mhm.
of random, but
In the book, there's a lot more of the
okay.
friendship. There's a
Because it
ton more because she
literally,
almost is hard and even with her husband, it's like they're all just these really good friends, and there wasn't enough time, I
but it
guess, to
is
showcase
hard to,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you dive that deep in the amount of
Yes.
time that we have when there's so much other,
Things going on in
yeah,
this book. That's why this book is so much.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I agree.
So yeah, well,
What
anyway,
was it?
the whole point of me saying that was I felt like, we kind of we understood maybe how he got to the place where he
Mhm.
was, but it does not excuse any
The
of his
way he is, yeah.
actions. And like for a minute there, then when, she's like in her apartment or whatever and putting that crib together, and then he shows up, like I was fuming. It took me right out of
Mhm.
my sadness. And I was fuming.
Like,
I'm
what
like,
is
you
this
have
guy doing
got to
here?
be kidding me. Yeah, like this doesn't make any sense. You can put the thing down if it's like, I
It's
don't know.
starting
Oh,
to
there you
sun.
go. I didn't
Yeah.
want it to be in your eyes. Yeah, I was so mad, and then he freaking comes in during the birth. I'd be like, "No,
I
get
know.
out of
Yeah, you're not
here."
holding my
I
hand.
know, and I
But that
thought,
all does, like, happen in the book,
okay,
so
I thought she was gonna take him back for a minute. I thought she was gonna be kind of like wound back
alright.
in with the family thing, and we have this baby. But then when she says like, "I want a divorce,"
I
and
know.
I think what did it, which I do think was kind of powerful, he was like, "I just want," when they were dating, he's like,
Right,
"I just want to keep you safe. Like I love you. When you stub your toe, like I
right.
blame myself, and I'm always gonna keep you safe." And then he said that same thing to his daughter, like, "I'm
Mhm.
gonna
She's
keep
like,
you
"No."
safe," and that kinda, like, triggered her, I think.
I know, and when you, because in the book, we get more of her inner dialogue, and
Mhm.
you get to hear her thoughts before she says that. So
Okay.
that's I mean, obviously, they can't do that in the movie, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it's all like it makes sense, like, she's sitting there, like, stewing on this,
Yeah.
looking at him with the daughter and being
Right.
like, "No, I
I
can't let
can't
this
do
happen."
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that for me was the part that was the most unrealistic,
Mhm.
where I think she says all the things that you want to say in that
Right.
moment. Like, would you want this for your daughter? What would you say if your daughter came home with
Right.
somebody like that or whatever? But then his reaction, just based on how we'd seen him react before,
Right.
it was like he was just like, okay, you're right.
Right. I'm gonna
I'll
go.
just leave you alone.
Mhm.
And then he's not in her life at all.
Right.
Like, that
And
seemed
typically, that's
wild.
not the way abusers work
No.
when they're getting it called off. And
Hmm.
that's kinda like the part where it's like we're trying to give him too much empathy.
Yeah, like he realized, oh, he was
Yeah,
wrong.
it's like, "Okay, you're right. I guess we can't be a family because of my actions." But he
Yeah.
doesn't even say that
No,
stuff.
he doesn't.
So it is kinda like but I don't know if the movie's just trying to be like, this is what like, this is a showing it in a positive, like, she ends it,
Yeah.
things go okay, but I
Yeah,
don't
she
think
can
that's
move
the most
on.
right,
Yeah.
realistic in real life.
Yeah. And again, I understand it's a book,
Right.
it's a movie. They have to wrap that up and
Right.
move on. And like at the end of the day, it's not real life. Like you can write
Right.
a book about things that happen in real life, but you can put a bow on it
Right.
and make it
Right.
fanciful and like it's not.
Right. Like in reality, this
Yeah.
is gonna be an ongoing thing
Yeah.
for,
I mean, you would hope that that would,
stop.
yeah, but I don't, especially given that he is as powerful as he is in his
Mhm.
career, I found it hard to believe that he would just kind of put his hands up and be
Be
like,
like, "You know
all
what?
right,
I'm
fine, you
gone.
take half in the
I'm not."
divorce,
Yeah,
you
and it's
know?
like they even if you're an abuser, sometimes you still want that child too.
Mhm,
So it just would
mhm.
seem like I do think he cares for the child, but I don't think he'd just walk away from it. And then it's
Yeah.
like in the new book, that
You said
isn't
they
the
get
case.
some
Yeah.
visitation.
Yeah, like stuff with that and stuff
Yeah.
happens. So it's like, but if when she first wrote it, there
Mhm.
was no
Yeah,
sequel.
because
So it's like this is how it's ending.
if Colleen Hoover, when she was finishing this book, maybe she wanted to leave it open
Right.
for the
A
sequel
second
that
or
maybe she had kind of an idea about, but not fully. So you're gonna wrap it up with the one
right.
love interest to make room for the
The
other
next one.
one,
Right.
which so it makes sense. It's
Right.
just if you're thinking about it as a real life
I know.
situation, it probably isn't gonna be that idealistic.
No.
But, I mean,
Um,
obviously, I'm glad that's how it wound
I
up
know, like,
because
I'm
I don't
happy
know if
for the
I could
characters.
I don't know if I could sit
I know.
through her going through a painstaking custody battle.
Oh my gosh. The other thing I did wanna address that there was a lot of stuff talking about with the movie was the wardrobe.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot
It
of Carhartt.
yeah. It wa The problem is, though, it's like Blake Lively is so
I
beautiful,
know that she can wear
so
literally
perfect.
anything.
She still looked incredible.
Everything looked great on
I
her.
know, like and then I was, like, looking at some of, like, the layering where it'd be, like, some kinda shorts or pants
Mhm.
and then another pant pulled over it. I don't I think that style, because then the teenager also watched it, I
Mhm.
thought they did it a little bit better on the teenager
Mhm. Me too.
version, like, it looked believable and everything. Um, but I don't remember what the book set up like, I pictured her as, like, a free spirit. I don't even
Yeah.
know if it addressed much of what she said, and I might not be remembering or, like, what she wore, and I might just not remember it, but I don't know what I thought of it, and even Alyssa, the character of Alyssa, it's like she is, like, this over the top person in
Mhm.
the book and, like, dresses, like, really girly and stuff, and even those outfits were, like, a bit over the top.
Mhm.
The
They tried to
guys
be
looked
so,
good.
like, fashion, like,
Yeah,
all
where
designer.
I feel
Yeah.
like it would've like, it kinda dated the movie a little
Mhm.
bit when it's only supposed to be a couple years ago
Yeah.
or, like, modern
Or
time.
if we watch this in 10 years, we'll be
Yeah,
like, "Okay, I can pinpoint when this was
right.
supposed to be." Yeah. I didn't
It didn't take away,
No,
though.
I didn't hate the styling of Lily Bloom. I did get very tired of the Carhartt. I
Yeah, there
didn't
was
love the
always a
beanies.
giant and I know this is such a trivial thing to talk
I
about,
know, but it
but
was such a big thing that
it
was talked about.
was, and the big coats over everything
Mhm.
was like
Which, like, I can't talk right now, I'm in a mess.
well, it's very
Levi's
much of
jacket
the
over a floral dress, so
well,
but I just feel like it's I don't know, to me, and this
those
is me thinking
right.
about my own style, but I don't I do like a bigger jacket, a
Yeah, like,
bigger
that's
blazer,
cool, yeah.
but the way it was all and for me, I just think it was the fact that it was always Carhartt. Like, why was it always a big
Yeah, it
Carhartt
was
jacket?
I know, and it was a little distracting, but I will say a lot of the filming was, like, waist
Yeah, you didn't
up,
see the
and
whole
a lot of
yeah,
face
yeah.
filming, like, it was a very intimately filmed
Mhm.
movie, um, so you didn't see it as much as we saw, like, in the paparazzi
Yeah, because
shots.
they definitely looked better on film than it
They
did, and
did,
I mean,
yeah,
because
and
it
I
was
think it
looking
wor
rough
it
when we
did,
saw those
and it
pictures.
worked with the aesthetic of the
For
flower
sure,
shop and
absolutely.
everything,
Yeah.
and I like the way they kept, like, the style, like, the continuous of it from the
Yes.
teenager to that. I think that worked, and it
Yeah.
was better than
What we
I mean,
thought.
there's definitely a couple like, when she came into the party with that dress or that jumpsuit maybe with that coat over it, and I was like,
Yeah, the camo coat. And then
Mhm.
that outfit particularly did annoy me because I remember there was such a big deal about those boots, and she's like, "They're
Mhm.
mine, they're from my," like with a lot of things. She's like, "We use stuff in my own closet," which I love Lively, but like that kind of just irked me. I'm like, why do we even need to just
Right.
stop? Like we already know you're perfect and beautiful and have
Right.
the best closet ever. Just stop. But then when we get like the close up of those boots, and I know it's supposed to be like I'm trying to get his
Yes.
attention, but yeah.
I
And
know.
then the
Well,
camo,
the thing I can definitely see, like, Blake Lively's sprinklings all over this, and
yeah.
it was very like, you brought up too, it's like Serena van der Woodsen. I felt like because style was so important in the show she was on for several years,
Mhm.
it kind of, like, I don't think the style should have been so as intense in
Mhm.
that way, like, it was a hair distracting, but again, it was not
Yeah.
nearly as bad as
Yeah, there were definitely a couple things that like I like I don't even think I would fully say quirky. It was more like bohemian.
Yeah.
I do, and I like a mixing of print. I like unexpected things, but it was almost just like to level
Yeah,
5,000.
it was very
Mhm.
caricature.
The outfit that made me the most mad is when they went out on that date on the rooftop, and she had that like the night where they first were intimate.
Mhm.
And she had that like kind of sexy, like bronzy dress
Yeah.
on with the freaking brown Carhartt
Yes.
over the top. That was the worst one
I
for
know.
me.
It was like you're going I don't know. It
Because, and
if
here's
you're
the,
gonna have this beautiful gown on, I know this like it's like her personal style would have been to have the coat on, but I feel like for something like that, maybe she just didn't have the coat on.
I know. She didn't have to wear the coat. Or maybe it was just like literally a sweater would have been a cardigan
Yeah,
for
like some
God's
kind of
sake would have been,
oversized
yeah,
something.
slouchy cardi, or like even this is why I mean I do like denim a lot, but I personally think that a jean jacket can be worn with a plethora of things and it's more of like a
Yeah.
classic staple, and it can be dressed up, dressed down, make a dressier thing look more casual, everything. But to me, a Carhartt doesn't feel the same, or a
Mhm.
camo jacket doesn't feel the same as that.
Right.
So even if she had like the oversized coat I have on now, I feel like I wouldn't have been as mad about that. But because it was the brown Carhartt with that like corduroy collar, it
Right.
just,
On the
oh
beautiful
my
gown.
God, it irked me to my
I
core.
know. So yes, I do think that was a hair distracting. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting it
Yeah,
to be.
I mean, yeah, like we said, those paparazzi pictures were, I
I
mean, it
was like,
put people in
"Oh."
a tailspin.
Yeah, and it's like I guess I get like they must have wanted to like really have this character fully fleshed out and
Mhm.
everything in her style and the way she is and but I don't know if I felt like that was that necessary and I don't remember it being part of the book, but I could be wrong on that.
I actually wanna go back and Google those paparazzi pictures to see if they
If it
were ones that actually were in the
I know.
movie or
I
not,
remember the one where she's pushing her daughter on the swing. That was one of the
which was hardly
paparazzi.
shown at all. It was,
Yes. And then the one where she's walking and it's
mhm.
like that super layered thing. I remember those 2
The
specifically.
one thing that I like though, and this was very Serena van der Woodsen, which I think is very just Blake
I know.
Lively
I don't think she can.
also.
I think she
She doesn't
is
even know
Serena.
anymore.
I know.
But was when I think it was the first night that they like slept together, and then when she got up that next day and she had that like, or no, I can't remember. It was when, was that the time where he like accidentally hit her, or when she was saying what's my mom's coming to town? No, she didn't have the black eye with the mom. No,
No.
I'm just like thinking in my head. Anyway, that time, and she had that like white t-shirt on that was kind of like cut weird, and then she had this cute, what looked just like a some type of lacy bra
Mhm.
on.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
she just pulled up those cute like cargo-y
Yeah.
pants and then put a jacket
And the
on. I
boots and
mean, I wish that I could be that
I know effort I know
effortless.
it was so like I believe that's how Blake Lively gets
Yes,
dressed.
absolutely. Like those were
And
probably
that
all her pieces.
yes, and that's where the clothing worked, and that
Mhm.
part of the character's personality
Yeah. There were
worked.
just a few that it was a little
Yeah,
distracting. Yeah,
for
I
sure.
and every time and I know I keep talking about Carhartt. It's not like I have something done against Carhartt, but if it was any other brand, it's because I can see right on there that Carhartt
Yeah,
logo too. Like every time it was there, I'm like, the logo, the logo.
I know.
Like
And
it
it's like that
just,
made sense when she was working on the store and cleaning
yeah,
it up. Like it made
for
sense,
that
but when it was, I don't know, it just felt
all the time.
a bit
Yeah, it just, anyway,
um
not to go on and on and on,
I
but
know. Well, speaking of the fashion, we did wear
yes,
floral.
we did. I mean,
Like
mine's a little risque, so
well, Blake Lively said to go ahead and do that.
yeah,
But then
we
this
were
morning I go, is this a little like insensitive to be like dressing up to this domestic violence movie? And I don't know if I have the answer to that
I
at
don't
this
know
point,
if I do
but I
either.
do feel like, because I know that was some of like the rhetoric around like this is how Blake Lively is like promoting the movie and stuff. And it's like, but it also feels like it's supporting the survivor.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we made the right choice there.
Well, I also feel, I mean, nobody knows us that we were at the theater with, so this could just be our normal
Normal dress.
style.
I know. And I just, yeah. And
But
I mean, we went out to lunch and had other plans
yeah,
too.
we
So it's not
did.
like I didn't feel overdressed, but I
No.
think I was like, was this?
But it did feel, I mean, we were definitely self-conscious about it. I went to the restroom after the movie and
Yeah, we definitely.
I did feel a little judged. It was like the Barbie movie all over
Yeah.
again when I there was like a teenager behind me waiting in line and she definitely gave me the like
I
look
know.
up
I
and
definitely.
down. I
Yeah.
felt like, why do you hate me? Please stop. But this is what we said when we watched the Barbie movie before too. I'm sorry that I wanted to put a dress on today.
I know, which takes less time to put
Yeah,
on than a shirt and
I'm
pants.
sorry that you put on a t-shirt and comfy shorts. That's fine. You can wear whatever you
Right.
want.
And I like wearing a summer dress in the summer
Me
because
too.
we have almost no summer where we live.
Yeah.
And, but I don't know.
Whatever.
Was
And
it
yeah,
nice or
Blake
was it
told us to
appropriate?
do it.
I
She's
know.
been wearing it through the entire
Entire
press
thing.
tour. I think that it was in my mind, it is us being supportive of the TV survivor Lily Bloom in this
I know.
film.
And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing if florals did end up being like
Yeah, a movement of
for,
support.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that is a
I
beautiful thing.
know. And again, if that was insensitive, I
I'm sorry.
apologize
I
that
don't
I did that. I
Yeah.
didn't give it a whole lot of thought until this morning.
And we already had our
I know,
outfits
and it was
picked
too
out.
bad
Yeah.
at that point because it
It
was
literally
on.
was like 20 minutes before, or no, it was a little bit before that. You're like, you're
Still
still
wearing
wearing florals,
florals. I
right?
know. I'm like, wait, is this okay? And
Yeah.
then I'm like, whatever.
I also did really like Atlas's grown-up style. I
Yeah.
mean,
See, now the guys looked
yeah,
good. It
I
wasn't distracting.
no, and I really like, I mean, I love a good double denim, and he pulled
You
that
know,
off
the
a couple
white
times.
tee
I mean,
and
yeah, I love that. He just was like rugged. Oh, I just,
oh,
the part of my mic just popped off. He was rugged, but like very classic.
mm-hmm.
And I just really liked his overall vibe, even with Ryle. Like, I thought that his attire was exactly what I would expect a
Yes.
neurosurgeon
I
to
know, like
wear.
simple black
Mhm.
t-shirt, you know. And I thought like the guys came out like how I pictured them from the book, in my opinion. I think they both embodied that so good
Mhm.
with the style, with the effort. Like it worked.
Yeah. And then we talked too about like the mom kind of at the end when Lily is pregnant and mom is helping her kind of put some stuff together and she decides to ask her
And you're
like,
like,
why
why
did you
didn't you
stay with
leave?
dad? Yeah, why didn't you leave him? And she was like, what did she say? Like it was
Well,
easier and I
I
loved him.
yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that that was a important scene to have in there too
Mhm.
because it shows kind
And
of
it's like
different.
that different generation
Exactly, that's exactly what I was
situation.
gonna say. And for somebody like her dad was the mayor. He was kind of a
Right, person in
powerful
power,
man,
yeah.
and the timing was, decades before. And like from what we see, I don't know if it was different in the book, but it didn't seem like the mom. Well, no, she did work because she'd be like, she's not home until 5,
Yeah, I
so
can't
she was gone
yeah, I'm pretty sure the
somewhere.
book talks about, like,
But
a doesn't
regardless,
matter.
the dad was definitely the man of the
Right,
house, and yeah, so she probably couldn't leave. Like it
right,
would have been a lot more difficult for her with this daughter, and like she said, like I did love him.
right,
And then to have Lily be like make her own choice and say, "No, that's not enough. Like I
right,
need to do better for my daughter so that
right.
this doesn't happen again." I thought that was
I know, and
important.
that was, like, well done. It was well done.
And I think when we were spiraling talking about film, this time and other times, but like look at how much conversation that can bring up, you know?
I know, and I think at the end of the day that this movie did do that,
Mhm.
and even though there's, like, drama going on, allegedly, it's like, it's still I don't know, it just still did what I think it was meant to do.
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, like I know we posted a TikTok and one of the comments is like, whoever's doing the PR for this isn't doing a great job. I mean, I fully disagree. First of all, I think Blake being out there with this great relationship with Colleen Hoover, like it
Right.
really and I don't know what the name of what Atlas's real name is. I'm
Ooh,
not
I don't
sure.
know it either.
But like they have been on everything, doing literally
Right.
everything. And then, like now this drama that is kind of allegedly happening behind the scenes with Justin Baldoni being the director, like when we finally get a chance to come together and fully talk about Ed Zwick's book that
I
we
know.
have been,
Hopefully, the next episode,
yeah,
whenever not
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
whenever it comes out.
But I think that if there's not passion
Right, yeah, that's what we
behind,
were
yeah,
talking
it's
about earlier. We're like, if you're dealing with a subject, especially like this, if there isn't conflict going on, then not everybody is believing in
mhm,
the project that you're
mhm,
working on. So if there really is drama going on when behind the scenes on this, it is because it is such a tough topic to talk about.
yeah,
And how are we going to portray this? And, a woman is gonna have maybe a little bit of and we don't
different
even know if that's
perspective,
what's
but that
going
could
on.
be, yeah,
Yeah, and there could have been a lot of that, and that's
yeah.
actually a good thing, and I think at the end of the day, they had a really good product.
I think they did too, and
A
I
lot
think
of
that
hardworking people.
I agree, and I think that the press and the drama has only helped the
I
movie.
know.
I feel like there already was so much hype behind this film even
Mhm.
before all that. Like when we talked about it like a year
Right.
ago, like this was highly anticipated, and I don't think that anything that has happened from then until now has hurt the success of the film at all.
I know, I
But
agree, and I think, like, just some of the comments I've read, it's like people being like, "I am not watching this after they did blah, blah, blah," like, just having
mhm.
nitpicky. I'm like, "That isn't fair to this movie
No.
because
And
it is good in
if
my opinion."
anything, I would tell someone to go see. Like, I would recommend
I
this film.
know.
I mean, that'll be probably both of our
Your
recommendations
recommendation.
today. But I 100% would. Even for me, I didn't read the book, and I still
It's
really
still
liked
good.
the
I know,
movie.
and I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I do. I was gonna say about that too, because when we were kind of whispering during the movie about movie versus book and whatever,
Mhm.
and I do think that sometimes, like now that I've seen the movie, like I'm not going to read the book
Right.
because not that I'm not interested in that, it's just I think that once you see a story play
Mhm.
out versus reading it, and also there's so many things that like when you're reading a book you need so many more details,
Right.
whereas in a movie when you're watching it
It's like I
happen,
see it. There it
yeah, I
is.
see
It's
it. Or
in
like,
my head.
oh, it's a mannerism, it's a vibe
Right.
I'm getting, and that speaks volumes
Yeah.
versus me reading,
I
3
know.
chapters.
And I think what was cool about this too is with they were able to like correct the wrongs of the book in a way. Not
Mhm.
that there's a ton of wrongs in the book,
Yeah,
but it's
but
like you were able to make it a different story and give a
mhm.
little bit more, and it was a cleaner
Mhm.
and better portrayal, I think.
Well, it's kind of an ideal situation because I don't think that any author writes a book knowing it's going to
Gonna
be
become yeah,
as huge as it is, or even the other way, like a flop,
right,
But when it is such a big success, it is a chance for you as the writer, if you're allowed to be still involved in the
right,
film, to like just what you said, make little changes
right.
that you couldn't make
Right, and
now.
even the part where they said, like, the homeless thing, I don't remember. I know the homeless thing was obviously said in the book, but when she goes, "Or I think you're supposed to call them
Mhm.
displaced,"
Mhm.
I don't remember if that was in the book, but that did feel like
They
a
corrected,
correction,
yeah.
a more caring way to
Yeah, and
say
more
what
like of the
happened.
time now that
Right,
that's what we refer to people yeah, especially when it's a student like that, like a
right.
young person. But, yeah, to talk about some of the drama too,
Mhm.
I've heard so many different
I know, there's
things.
a lot circulating around. I don't even after seeing the movie and thinking, like, everybody seemed like they had the good chemistry that was
Mhm.
needed there, I don't know.
I have no
I'm, like, at a
idea.
loss.
I mean, okay, so you mentioned just a couple minutes ago that maybe like Blake or even Colleen Hoover as women had a different perspective about the domestic violence thing.
Right.
But then somebody on our TikTok had said that he actually was the one that
There's
wanted
more
to,
yeah.
you know, shine more of a light on that situation, and Blake wanted to go in a different direction. But then like what our TikTok was about was Colleen Hoover on Watch What Happens Live, and like she kind of knowing she knows all the drama that's going
Right.
on. And then they started talking about Verity, which did you read that one?
No, I keep,
Oh,
clicking it away because I can't get it on audiobook, so I'm like, I
oh,
have to be able to read it, so I
yeah.
keep, like, delaying it, but
Yeah,
anyway.
but that's the next one that's, like, in pre-production, and then Andy so they were kinda talking about that, and then Andy was like, "Oh, do you get veto rights?" And then she said, "No, but I wish I did." And I just personally felt that that was a very pointed question and a very calculated answer that might speak to, and if we're reading into it, then she's at least adding fuel to the fire.
I know they're not, like, helping,
No.
so it's like something is going on
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and then like I said too, the guy that plays Atlas, which I'm so sorry I don't know your name either, but you're
Oh,
so handsome.
I know, "You're so
Yeah,
darling, marry me."
she said, that I would want him to play like, he did such an amazing job with Atlas, I'd want him to play every character in my movies.
Yeah,
Like,
so she's
so she
like
loves him.
and that's kind of it is Brandon Skelner.
Remember that
Remember
name.
that he's gonna be in
He's
every
gonna
movie.
be big, baby.
But,
He's gonna be our guest on the pod, and we'll both have new rings on our finger.
but, yeah, so it is interesting, the situation, but you almost because 'cause I've seen the stuff too where it's like maybe he was purposely distancing
Mhm.
himself because of what his character was, and then
Yeah.
maybe it kinda, like, worked in that way.
Yeah.
But also, I don't feel like that would be the case either, and I just wonder what
I
the
know because I think Amanda Hirsch mentioned that, and she said, or maybe it wasn't her, but somebody said there's been so many movies that depict, violence
Mhm,
in different ways or manipulation or whatever,
mhm.
and they don't do that for press tours.
Right,
So it kind of doesn't really make sense.
right,
And especially like for somebody like me, again, who didn't read the book, like I didn't really know if it was Atlas or Ryle that
right,
was the abuser.
right.
So for me, I'm like, why is
What's
this
going
one
on?
guy not
Doing
on the
anything?
press tour? It was weird.
Yeah, I know. It is I know,
And
I
then I
just wanna
heard that
know.
he like maybe got into character too much.
Right.
I heard about like he wasn't as sensitive to Blake because she was postpartum.
Postpartum. But if that was put out by like them, that's a pretty awful
I
thing to say
know.
if that was put up with them, and that I hope, if that's the case, that's just
I know. I
yikesy.
know. And then he has said, like in interviews, he's been like, it's really hard to direct and
Right.
act. We know that Ryan Reynolds had a lot to do with the
I know.
film.
And then when he's like, I think Blake's ready to I mean, there
Yeah.
are so many, but then he's also talked a little bit nicely about everything
Yeah, but
too. So
the
it's like,
weird thing
what's
is,
going on?
like, nobody will even really say his
I know, like
name.
that girl, the Isabel something.
Yeah. About the
Yeah,
mole.
about the mall.
Yeah.
She's like, my
Yeah, like
director.
we know who
Huh?
it is.
I know.
Or like Jenny Slate when she
Yeah.
in that one, I don't even remember what the question was, but she totally avoided
Yeah,
it.
they're like, well, how was it working? She goes, well, I know I don't want to be a director and
Yeah,
an
like she
actor. I'm gonna just
totally.
stick. She's like, I thought about writing and stuff, but actually, no.
Yeah, it's like what the heck they are icing him out.
I know, it's like,
I
dang.
know. I mean,
So
I
I
don't
just
know what the heck.
so curious. But
And
they made magic.
I know. But I mean, he won't have to be in the next film, really. I mean, not that I know. I don't know and really
I mean,
anything,
he
but
is
they
in
could
it.
they probably could just allude to him
That
existing.
I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
That I
But
can't
he
remember. But
isn't the main
no, it's more
character.
back to like Atlas and then
Yeah.
Lily.
So, and a little
And I maybe
insider.
they could get him to do it, for like 200,000, just like a
Yeah,
couple scenes.
maybe they're like, you need a redemption. But as like entertainment insider not insider information, but just like behind the scenes stuff, I guess he has the film rights,
Mm,
Justin Baldoni does, but for It Starts With Us, so was it Sony
I don't remember.
who got those film
I know it
rights?
was somebody different or something.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. It's that person commented on our TikTok, but I can't remember who but somebody else totally has the film rights.
Hmm.
So, oh my God, Amazon does. It's
Ah,
Amazon.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
They have the film rights. So that could be, I mean, was that like a poignant thing that like we want to go in a completely different direction?
Right,
Was it that Amazon offered more money and took hold of it because
right.
they knew there was all this hype? Like, I mean, it literally, I don't think we're ever really gonna
I know
know.
it was it's
And
so
like
wild.
Blake hasn't even really said anything. Like she has tried to be positive this whole time and
Yeah,
not feed into anything at all.
yeah, she's been very focused on her
Mhm.
character and her journey and
Yeah. So it's really
and the thing I was thinking, and I hate to like be like, well, women are, if she really or she was 3 to 4 months postpartum,
mhm.
um, you're very emotional and everything. So there
100%.
that could have also, it's like maybe something
Yeah.
happened. She called her husband crying. He came in
Yeah,
there.
right. Maybe that was, a
Trouble.
uncomfortable
Right.
situation. Yeah.
I mean, who
Who
knows?
knows?
I was loving the drama though. I'm still
Me
loving it.
too.
I'm curious now that it's been opening weekend.
I
What's more is
know.
gonna be said
Because
and
it is interesting. To me it creates hype around the movie, but also it makes me think that like, okay, you guys really cared about this project because we're hearing all this stuff,
right.
but now look, the movie was good.
I know
You know?
that's the thing too. I was because of all this drama, I was expecting a mess of a
I
movie.
was
I did
expecting
not
it
get
to
a
be
mess of it.
uncomfortable or
Yes.
like we could tell, oh God, what
They hate
happened?
each
Yeah,
other
but
like
no.
it worked.
Yeah, I know. Like we kind of compared a little bit with the drama with Don't Worry, Darling,
Mhm.
and I watched that movie like very later after it came out and stuff, but that movie, like to me, it was fine. I would not watch it again. It was kind of boring at times and slow. But to me, I felt like knowing that
There's
Olivia Wilde
issues.
and
Yeah.
Harry Styles were together at that time, like it felt weird to me. And then hearing
Like
like
it
the
was
issues with
off.
Florence Pugh,
Yeah.
yeah, like it felt off to me. And
Yes.
maybe that's just kind of getting in. your head. But then
Right.
when you saw that they literally wouldn't even be by each other
I
on
know.
the press tour,
Right.
I mean, this is like that to the extreme where he's not even
Harry
on the
Styles is
tour.
spitting on
Yeah,
Chris
Chris
Pine's
Pine.
shoe, which he didn't
I
do,
know,
but
but it looked like
I know.
it.
But yeah, and then we're kind of like seeing this again, but we actually got like a good product.
I know. And to me, this feels more real,
It
where the
did.
Don't Worry Darling stuff, in
It,
my
I know it
opinion, again,
almost
felt
felt,
kind of
yeah, or
fabricated.
like pettier
Hmm.
drama. Like it, well, I don't know. We don't
Well,
really know what was going on. It just felt a little pettier. And
and
then
I think part of it was kind of because I wasn't a big fan of Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles, so that probably swayed
Claudine,
me a
yeah.
little bit. But it's even without that, it just felt kind of like, okay, like, do we really think that he's spitting on him? Like, it just
Right.
felt like, come on,
I
like you.
know.
And
It's
then when they
crazy.
already had like 50 A-list actors in there, I'm like, why do you need this? You know what I
Right.
mean? That's what it felt like.
Right.
But no, this feels very genuine.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
We'll see how it all unfolds.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, what the timeline is for the next one. It starts with us, right? It starts,
Mhm.
not begins. Okay. But
Or if
I,
we'll end up actually getting something from
yeah,
that, we'll see.
yeah, I'm very curious, but I would say go see this movie.
I know it was
and
good.
it's not one that I would say you have to see in
Right.
theaters, but if you're
It
not
was
doing
nice. Yeah.
anything, the
You want to
next
see it
couple weekends
sooner.
or whatever, yeah, I would say see it. It's not worth it. Like
I know. It was a good movie. I
yeah.
mean, I'm probably going to give it like a 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah, and when it comes out on streaming, I will
I would
probably
probably
watch
watch
it
it again.
again.
If
Yeah.
anything, just to look at Blake.
Oh yeah, for sure. She looked so good. And what we kept saying too, like there weren't a lot of there wasn't really like nudity at all. There was just like, bra or whatever.
Right.
But Blake looked
She
amazing.
did.
I mean, for being that was her is it 3 or 4 kids?
4.
Okay,
This was her
this
4th.
was the fourth kid.
I believe so.
I mean, she looked
She
unbelievable.
did.
And obviously, she can get whatever she wants done. She can have a chef, she can have a trainer. But she really looked great. But I didn't think that her body looked so unattainable.
Right.
Like, to me, it looked like she's a normal, thinner,
I know.
healthy woman.
Right.
Like, yeah, she wasn't like razor thin.
Mhm.
It was just I thought she looked really good.
Yeah.
So, I feel like there was one other thing I was gonna say. Oh, and I also kind of gave me a little confidence too. She was in a lot of like cropped kind of tanks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
With the
necessarily
coat
wear
over
those.
it.
Yeah. But I did like that she is an older character
Yeah.
wearing that, and
Like the younger.
but it didn't look like, oh,
She was
she's trying
trying
to
to
be
be,
young.
yeah.
It just looked like, oh, this is her
What she threw
style, and
on,
she feels
yeah.
comfortable in that. But she didn't have like washboard abs
Right.
under there. Like she looked good.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, why do I not feel comfortable sometimes? Like, that's silly. Like, Blake's giving me confidence, even though I look nothing like her. She's so tall and beautiful. But yeah, I like the movie a lot.
Yeah, I definitely liked it. Recommend.
Definitely recommend. I wanted to say something really fast about New Jersey because I watched the finale, and I know you didn't watch it at all. It's whatever, but you've probably heard all the hype that's been around. They're like, "This is for sure the end." Andy, this whole
Yeah, I
time, was
did
like, "I
hear
don't know how we come back from this." I watched that, and I don't know if they edited a ton of stuff out, but in my opinion,
You're like, what happened?
it didn't feel like this is so broken and so horrible, and this fight
Right.
was so bad that it can never come back.
Right.
So I really,
Unless stuff like happened after
yeah,
amongst like producers and cast,
right.
if like stuff like that happened.
I mean, it was definitely messy. Like, you might have seen this stuff where the one girl, Danielle, like lunged across the
Mhm.
table. But to me, and take this with a grain of salt, but Jersey's always been a little,
Physical.
yeah, a little like a little rough around the
Right.
edges. Like it always has
They're
been.
scrappy.
They're scrappy. That's a great way to put it. So that wasn't really anything new for
Right.
me. And so I'm really confused as to why. And even they did a whole montage at the end of like the good times. That was like flashbacks
Mhm.
at the beginning when they had all the women out, for the like opening credits. They put it to black and white as if it's the
Mm.
end, and then at the end like the camera kind of like did that thing where it goes to
Swing.
black, and
Yeah.
then yeah, like this is over. And I was just thinking, you know, with this compared to Vanderpump,
Right.
in my opinion, that to me felt so much more like this is finality with Vanderpump. Like I watched that and I'm like, how the heck is
Right.
this moving forward? And but then they acted like, oh, we're just gonna put it on pause and then we'll see. They didn't act like it's over. But then now with
Right.
Jersey,
It's like it's done so.
yeah, like I don't understand that.
No. And I'm like, is this just trying to have a Vanderpump moment?
Yeah, I know. You wonder that too. It feels like that, like even with stuff with Summer House, it
Everything.
felt like
It's
I
like the
know.
Vanderpump moment.
Yes. So
It's
I don't know. And I think it kind of would be a shame. Not that I've been watching Jersey religiously for all these years, but I think it really would be a shame if they totally scrapped it. And because that was, I mean, it wasn't one of the originals, but it was one of the first five, right? New
mhm.
Jersey was. And so I really think it would be kind of sad if it just was not
There
there
it
any
was, just
yeah.
done
Like
so.
how they did with Miami where they like had, which I don't really watch Miami, but they had that off for a few years.
For
Like
many years.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just, and I mean Teresa's an OG. So it's just really, not that I agree with everything that she does, but it's just I don't know what's going on with Bravo, and we talked about this before, but I literally do not know what the heck is
I
going
know.
on.
Too many hands in the or what are they? Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah. Or
I
just
know.
not the right ones.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to bring up.
No.
All right. Well,
A shorter episode, but
yeah. I mean,
we'll
it's just shorter than our
catch
more
up.
recent ones. So, if you really liked It Ends With Us, definitely let us know. Put that in some comments. If you haven't seen it yet, we basically just told you everything. So
Right.
I'm sorry, but it still is worth a watch. And yeah, anyway,
Yep.
thanks for listening. Find us where you listen to podcasts and on socials, and tell a friend. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.